Good evening once again. I'm Steve Kornacki in for Brian Williams, who has the night off. Day 1323 of the Trump administration, and 61 days to go now until the presidential election. Tonight, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are exactly 2 months out from November 3rd. That means they're about to hit that critical stretch of the campaign that kicks off this Labor Day weekend. And the messaging is becoming more intense as these two candidates try to frame the key issues and arguments against each other. Today, Biden traveled to Kenosha, Wisconsin, one of the cities at the center of a renewed push for racial justice and police reforms, and where there was also violence and unrest in the immediate wake of the shooting of Jacob Blake. Biden's trip came 2 days after the president's visit, and the former vice president met with Jacob Blake's family. He described a conversation he had with Blake himself.
Had an opportunity to spend some time with Jacob on the phone. He's out of ICU. He talked about how nothing was going to defeat him, how whether he walked again or not, he was not going to give up. My wife asked to say a prayer, and his mom said a prayer, which she said, "I'm praying for Jacob, and I'm praying for the policeman as well."
Biden also met with Kenosha residents and community leaders and called for an end to violence during protests. And he criticized some of what Donald Trump has had to say.
The words of a president matter. No matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. But I made a mistake about something. I thought you could defeat hate. Hate only hides. It only hides. And when someone in authority breathes oxygen under that rock, it legitimizes those folks to come on out. Regardless how angry you are, if you loot or you burn, you should be held accountable as someone who does anything else, period. Violence in any form is wrong. The idea that this president continues to try to divide us, give succor to the white supremacist, talks in ways that are just absolutely, I've never used this regard to president before, not only incorrect but immoral. They're just simply wrong. Simply wrong.
Hours later, the president held a lengthy rally-like event on the tarmac in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and he went after Biden.
Before the China virus, this election was over. Now I had to go back to work, and we've done a great job on it. We don't get the credit. Biden will never be able to protect your jobs or your family. He is a puppet of the socialists, Marxists, and the cop-hating extremists, and they are cop-hating. So Joe Hayden, we have a new one, Joe Hayden. We call him Joe Hayden. And they want to blow up Mount Rushmore. They want to ban straws. But did you ever see a man that likes a mask as much as him? And then he makes a speech, and he always has it, not always, but a lot of times he has it hanging down. Because you know what? It gives him a feeling of security. And then yesterday I read that I had strokes. Mini strokes, they called them. I don't know what a mini stroke is, but it's not good. These mail-in ballots are a disgrace, and they know it. The lists are inaccurate, and people are dead, and dogs have gotten ballots. They have. Dogs have gotten ballots. If Russia or China or these other countries want to cheat, all they have to do is forge ballots. You better elect me.
Now, when it comes to the coronavirus, the rate of infection has indeed slowed of late, with new case counts this week reaching their lowest levels in 2 months. At the same time, the U.S. is still recording around 40,000 new cases a day. That level is 4 times what Dr. Anthony Fauci says we should be aiming for. Overall, there have been 6.2 million cases so far, with nearly 188,000 people lost. The chief scientific advisor to the administration's vaccine development program, known as Operation Warp Speed, tells NPR it's unlikely any effective vaccine will be ready before the end of October, and that it'll take months longer to begin distribution. Trump tonight also seemed to repeat advice to supporters in North Carolina to stress test the security of their election systems by trying to vote by mail and then in person in the same election. This morning, he tweeted, quote, "Go to your polling place to see whether or not your mail-in vote has been tabulated, counted, If it has, you will not be able to vote at the mail-in and the mail-in system worked properly. If it has not been counted, vote. North Carolina's Board of Elections stated today that, quote, it is illegal to vote twice in an election. Tonight, Trump again raised the topic.
These mail-in ballots are a disgrace, and they know it. Sign your mail-in ballot, okay? You sign it and send it in, and then you have to follow it. And if on election day or early voting, that is not tabulated and counted, you go vote.
North Carolina will be the first state to begin mailing ballots. They are going to start going out tomorrow. And the latest Monmouth poll in that battleground state has Biden leading Trump by 2 points. This is a state that Trump won by 3 in 2016. And new Quinnipiac polls show Biden leading Trump 52-44 in Pennsylvania and 48-45 in Florida. Again, those were Trump states in 2016. Bring in the Joe Biden and his strategy here. Wisconsin is complicated political terrain, to put it mildly, for Democrats. It had been not since 1984 that a Republican had carried that state, but Trump picked it off in 2016. You saw that surge support for Trump in Wisconsin from blue-collar white voters, a lot of rural parts of the state. You also saw much lower African-American turnout, particularly in Milwaukee, than Democrats had become accustomed to, created a situation where Trump could carry the state. As John mentions, you've got two very different messages that seemed aimed at, in many ways, different audiences here. In terms of the Biden campaign trying to get Wisconsin back, do you think their message is going to sufficiently appeal to who they need it to appeal to and not alienate who they can't afford to alienate?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's very complicated. My family's from Michigan, just down the way, also very complicated swing state. I think the reality is that this is really an election about whether America is for everybody and can be a democracy that is shared by everybody, or whether this is that's really not acceptable to a minority of Americans who don't want to share a democracy with Black and brown people. And frankly, I don't think most white Americans feel that way. And I think that the Biden campaign is a real opportunity, as Barack Obama did in 2008, he was very successful in this, to bring the country together, back together, or much of it at least, by reminding Americans what we have in common and that there's a place at the table for everybody. So, for example, doing things like talking to African-American police officers and having them as surrogates as well. Just reminding Americans that actually there is a place at the table for everybody is very important. I think what Donald Trump has unleashed, unfortunately, over the past 4 years is a very old American racism that kind of comes up whenever it is emboldened, just as Joe Biden said. And Donald Trump has done exactly that. It's very hard to put back in the bottle. It's very ugly. It's very toxic. And I don't believe that's the sentiment of most Americans. But that's really what Joe Biden is up against. And I think it should be taken extremely seriously. I think this is an election that's going to be fought by every vote is going to have to be fought for by these Democrats.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.